Hi, I just filmed a video talking about aldehydic perfumes in my wardrobe. And in that video, I did talk about maybe filming a video going over the perfumes that I've been wearing this year. I do have a pretty good record of what I was wearing in January. So I've already covered off pretty much February and early March based on what I was wearing on holiday. But if I just backtrack a little bit, I can give you a little bit of an overview of the things that I wore the most in January. In the month of January, I wasn't really reaching that much for samples. I have to admit, I really was focusing quite a lot on bottles in my wardrobe and just enjoying things from the bottle. So that is pretty much what's reflected in this video. January was an incredibly tough month for me. We have been going through a restructure at work. We've lost probably about 50% of our team, if not more. And I myself just resigned last week because the role that I was then put into after my role was made redundant really just wasn't where I wanted my career to go. So I am feeling a little bit nervous as I sit here today filming. And not sure about what's going to happen in the coming weeks once I've served out my notice period. Anyway, in late January, my mother passed away unexpectedly. So that was really, really challenging. And I will confess, I have already filmed this video once before. But the day that I filmed the video, I was extremely emotional. Plus, annoyingly, I had the air conditioning going and you could hear the air blowing across the microphone, which was really annoying. I couldn't even edit the footage because it was so annoying. So I certainly wasn't going to subject you to that. Hence why I'm filming this all over again, despite the fact that it is almost April. So what did I wear in January? Right, well, it's probably prudent to start at the beginning of January. And for Christmas, I was given 2 perfumes by my dear husband. And he bought me the new Hermes perfume called Burania. And I do rather like the bottle. I kind of like the full-size bottle just for the aesthetics, but I highly encourage Matt at all times, if he's going to buy me perfume, to buy me the smallest format he can get. So very wisely, he bought me the 30ml. I would say that I went through most of that in the first 2 weeks of January. I love this perfume. Okay, so this is a modern Chypre. Oh gosh, and now that I smell it, I'm transported immediately back to Christmas and where we were at Christmas time. So for Christmas, we went down to spend it with Matt's family at their little holiday home. His sister has a holiday home in, I guess, the almost central coast of New South Wales, and it was just a beautiful little town, very sleepy, dogs everywhere. Barely anyone is driving. Everyone just walks everywhere. And, there's a river on one side and there's ocean and you can take your dog, and it's a very relaxing time. A lot of people were disappointed in this perfume. A lot of people don't like it. It does have quite a sweet, fruity opening, not sugary sweet, but sweet and tart, and then it dries down into more of a very light, leathery, floral base with a little bit of earthy tones in there as well. It's probably not what I was expecting when I read about Hermes releasing a modern Chypre perfume. That said, I really, really like this, and particularly for where I live in really hot weather, this is beautiful in the hot weather, and it just sparkles and it's happy. And even though it's got this sort of sweet, tart, fruity opening, it also has an air of sophistication about it, particularly in the dry down. It's very elegant. I really rate this perfume. I think it's great. So that is one of the things I was wearing a lot in the first couple of weeks of January for sure. Matt also bought me a bottle of Lise 41 by Le Labo. This is one that I have been wanting for a while now actually, so I was really, really happy that he bought me this. He did buy me the 50ml and not the 15ml, which is the smallest format you can get. Lise 41, the name would suggest it's largely a lily perfume. I feel like I get quite a lot of tuberose from this. I do get a little bit of a lily aspect as well. It's a very watery white floral perfume. It's a little bit green as well, and it is quite crisp and sharp in the opening, but it settles so beautifully on the skin, and I really love it. I haven't worn it a lot yet, but I do feel this is going to be one that I'll probably reach for a lot in the dead of winter when I'm wanting a bit of freshness and I want just a memory of summer. This one I think will wear really well in the cooler months. So I think that'll be sort of where this gets its first real outing from my wardrobe in 2025. So that is Lise 41 by Le Labo. I have dabbled a little bit with some ambery perfumes in the past during summer. You know, our summers are so oppressively hot and humid that ambers were sort of the last thing that I ever thought to wear during summertime. But some of you have been commenting when I've made those sort of statements in the past. Some of you have commented that you wear your ambers probably more in the heat than you do in the cooler months. So I have started to dabble in wearing ambers in the more warmer months. And a couple that work really well for me in our weather is first of all Ombre Narguilé by Hermes, and this one works really, really well for our heat because it's an amber, but there is a dryness to it. It is sweet, but it's translucent and it's light wearing and it's kind of airy, and it's just so easy to wear, and it's always well received by people around me. I wouldn't say that like people give me lots of compliments. You know, people only notice it if they're really, in your scent bubble, and it's not often that I have people getting that close to me. So that is Ombre Narguilé, really, really beautiful. Lots of cinnamon. People associate it with apple pie. I don't get an apple note from it, but I can see where that comes from because of the spices that are in here. All right, so that is Ombre Narguilé. I was wearing that quite a lot. After that, I transitioned to wearing Tiger by Her Side by Sana Jardin. This is quite similar to Ombre Narguilé actually, but I do find it to be a lot sweeter than Ombre Narguilé, at least in the opening, and then in the dry down, it settles a lot more earthy than Ombre Narguilé. So it's like Ombre Narguilé kind of sits in the middle of the spectrum that this perfume covers throughout the wear. I do find that the opening a little bit challenging on this one just because to me it is very, very sweet, but the dry down is absolutely beautiful. And even in the opening, when you're getting that sweetness, you've got hints of the earthiness that's coming. It's there, the earthiness is there, but you need to wait for the sweetness to settle before you can really appreciate the earthy aspects of this perfume to their full capacity. So that is Sana Jardin Tiger by Her Side. The earthy tones of Tiger by Her Side then had me thinking about another perfume in my wardrobe that's quite earthy but also a bit musky, and that is Misfit by Arquiste. Oh, this is such a great, great perfume, and I get really lovely imagery from this fragrance. It's a very warm, skin-like, musky perfume that has a lot of patchouli in the base. And so it's woodsy, it's musky, it's spicy. There's a bit of a sweetness in there as well, like a benzoin or maybe a little bit of vanilla too, but it doesn't smell like vanilla. It's just more of a benzoin-y, spicy sweetness. And I get this imagery when I smell this perfume. Can you hear that rain? Wow, it's really coming. It's just been raining all day today. It's so miserable. The imagery that I get wearing this perfume is, I was describing it to somebody in the Facebook group, and I was saying that, you know, imagine you're married to a lumberjack. He comes home after a day of being out in the forest chopping wood, so he smells woodsy, but you know, he's worked up a sweat, he's gotten warm, so you're getting that sort of warm, musky skin aspect. You know, maybe he's wearing a leather vest, or like he's got, you know, leather in his outfit, his leather boots or his leather belt or something, and so you've got the smell of the leather mixing with that warm musk, and you know, these woodsy tones from all the wood that he's been chopping and handling all day long. He comes in, he goes and has a shower, he washes himself with a lavender scented soap, and then after his shower, before dinner or something, or maybe after dinner, he's relaxing in his library, his office that might also be, you know, his library. There's lots of leather bound books, there's beautiful timber. He's in his leather armchair. He might have maybe a bit of whiskey on the side, which has a hint of, you know, peaty smokiness to it. And, you know, he's reading the paper or a book or something like that. That's that's the image that comes to mind when I wear this perfume, when I smell this perfume. And I just love how this mingles with warm skin. So even though when you smell this perfume, it smells like something you might gravitate more towards in cooler months, it settles so beautifully on warm skin that I feel like it works a lot better. Or like, I really enjoyed wearing this in the summertime. So that is Misfit by Arquiste. And my battery's about to die, but I will try and get through this next one. After I wore Misfit for a little while, I did a complete 180 and went to more of a tropical, what I consider to be more of a tropical gourmand perfume. I started reaching for God and Moon by Maison de Lazy. Maison de Lazy is a brand based out of Singapore. They do a lot of fragrances that are very tropical themed, and they reference a lot, you know, surrounding Asian countries. You know, a region that obviously I'm fairly familiar with, so I really have enjoyed a lot of their perfumes. I should tell you this, they did send me this particular perfume late last year, but if you go back through my channel, there was a video that I did, I think 2021 or 2022, where I purchased a discovery set from this brand, and I talked about the discovery set as it was back then. It's changed now. They've obviously added new perfumes, so there's a lot in the range now that I didn't cover back then, but suffice to say, I've been aware of this brand for quite some time, and I find this perfume to be so intriguing. When I first smelled it, I was thinking, oh, I don't know, am I going to like this? Is it going to be too much for me? Because it is quite sweet. It's got sort of hints of coffee and plum, and apparently there's also a honey note in there. Oh, I think it's I think I just accidentally pressed the atomizer when I put the lid back on. Hang on, I need to wipe it. I've put it on that tissue now so I can... So it's got all these sort of dark elements to it, but then there's a lightness or a sort of a light tropical vibe about it too, because I think there's lots of white florals in here. In particular, I think the white floral is gardenia, but there's also carnation in this perfume. I feel like I get a lot of the plum in the opening. It's got a very velvety sort of texture to it as well, but also it's creamy. It's got a very creamy texture to it, but it also has a bit of a velvety aspect too. As it dries down, it becomes a little bit more, I want to say fluffy, but I know people hate it when I say fluffy, but I can't help it. Even though it has these really gourmand aspects to it, and you definitely feel like it's a gourmand or gourmand leaning, the florals and the tobacco really help to pull it back. Sorry, was I saying tobacco? I think I meant tonka. Tonka, the other T word. So it's kind of spicy. There's these really sweet aspects from the plum and the honey. Florals, white florals predominantly. And I don't know, there's sort of this earthy aspect to it as well. It's really, really intriguing. It's really interesting. And despite these sort of gourmand elements to it that I thought would make it really heavy, and it does have an opulent presence about it, it also doesn't feel that heavy when you're wearing it, and it doesn't feel too much, and it doesn't make me start to feel nauseous after a few hours. It really settles beautifully on the skin. So I have really been enjoying that one. That is God and Moon by Maison de Lazy. Because of the spiciness of the last two, I then decided I wanted to reach for my trusty old Almond Woman by Almond Jane. And I've talked about this so much, I don't think I need to go into any great detail again, but suffice to say, it's like a spicy green floral. It also has very much of a woodsy aspect in the base. It just reminds me of being in a forest, basically, or walking through a forest. There's earthy tones, there's beautiful spicy cardamom in the opening. It's one of my favorite, cardamom openings, I think, in perfume. Matt really loves cardamom, and he's got quite a few perfumes that have a dominant cardamom aspect to it, but I still think Almond Woman is my favorite. Not that I'm biased or anything. I am nothing if not consistent when it comes to this particular perfume. So that was Almond Woman by Almond Jane. And then after that, things got not so nice. So as I mentioned, my mum passed away, and I had to pack in quite a hurry to get home to be with my dad and my sister. And I wasn't, I was in two minds about packing perfume because I just, obviously I had in the back of my mind that maybe I shouldn't wear a perfume because maybe I don't want to have any scent associated with that time, or maybe I don't want to ruin potentially a love for a perfume because I wore it during that time. And I think somebody did actually comment on one of my videos since I've revealed what's happened, and they said that they just wore like a cheap, nasty perfume that they hated. And I was like, I could do that. I could have done that. But as horrible as it is to lose such a dearly loved member of your family, it also is a really bittersweet time because it brings people together. And, I live on the opposite side of the country to the rest of my family. And Australia is a very big country. It's a long way. And it was such a beautiful time of coming together for my sister, my father, and myself, that even though it hurts to, obviously think about the reason we were together at the same time, and it hurt also to not have mum there, but it was just such a beautiful time that we spent together. We really reconnected and rebonded. I talk to my sister and my dad regularly. I was talking to my parents regularly, but it's just, I don't know, there was just something really special about the time that I got to spend with them when I was there. So I did end up taking a perfume that I do love a lot, but I felt like it was so fitting for this particular time, and I don't regret it at all. And I still love the perfume, and I think it's really lovely that I now have this perfume associated with a time that was dedicated to celebrating my mother. And that perfume, of course, you've probably guessed it already, but it is De Profundis by Serge Lutens. So this perfume is, I think, from memory, the marketing of this perfume does have something to do with funerals, perhaps, or maybe it's some reviews that I've read about it where people say they feel like it smells like a funeral. The dominant note is chrysanthemum. So I understand that apparently is a flower that's used a lot for funerals. And it is just such a beautiful contemplative perfume. It is melancholic, but at the same time, I think I've described previously that there's an element of hope in this perfume as well for me, like a feeling of, maybe a new beginning or just a new chapter. And I just thought it was the perfect thing. And I pretty much wore this for the rest of January and the first sort of week or so of February. But when we got back home to Brisbane, I put this away and I haven't really worn it since. It is interesting because, well, unsurprisingly, I do have a bit of a strong scent association with being at home and spending time with my family, which yes, it was sad. Of course it was sad, but I think of that fondly, and I wanted to remember that, I wanted to have a deep connection to that time because it's a special time. Special, sad, devastating time, but special nonetheless. And I think Mum would like that. I think Mum would be really happy about us having spent, that quality time together and to have nice memories of that and knowing that that was us celebrating her. De Profundis by Serge Lutens was the last perfume that I wore a lot before we went away on holiday. So that now concludes my video on what I wore the most in January and a little bit of February. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. Let me know in the comments what you've been wearing. I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.
Look ahead, the sea is calm, and I know we've been through a lot, but just wait. Wait for better days to come and carry us like wind.